que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Es el sueño el motor, son las metas a alcanzar. Siempre hay que descubrir la manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer. Es el sueño el motor, son las metas a alcanzar. Siempre hay que descubrir la manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer.
And he's pedal to the metal, go, go, go!
Welcome back, ladies and gents, to round 3 of this PSGL Season 33 F4. That's a very long title. As I am joined once again by my lovely colleague Benjamin, sat on kind of almost opposite way. Bit of argument.
Looking a yonder.
Absolutely, absolutely. Round 3. We're already at this stage already, at round 3, and we've had dramas left, right, and centre already.
Yeah, crazy to think it's like some of the stuff we've seen on track, and when you think about it, it is a fair chunk into the season, but it's also not, because you're looking at things like the points tables, you're looking at all of these sort of like early battles, rivalries being made, and you think, wow, this is only round 3, but at the same time we think, wow, we're already at round 3. It's like a weird paradox almost, if you know what I mean.
The thing is, with this championship as well, this is still massively open, because anybody, theoretically, if the top runners don't score points, theoretically anyone in this championship could just jump to first. So it's all to play for and in anyone's game. So for instance, I'll give an example. From, I think it's 15th, they're only 23 points behind. Everyone below them, 23 points behind, because, and then they can jump to first with just a win. Oh no, they can't. It's a different point system. Oh, I'm stupid. I keep forgetting this. Why? It's 16 points. No, but it's still up. My point still stands. It's still up for anybody's because it's only round 3.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you look at the numbers, you crunch it, because say maximum of 17 points that you can get over the course of a single race, and that means that anyone from 1st to 9th could jump to the top of the standings with a perfect race, and assuming the others absolutely bottle it. Statistically, unlikely, but possible, absolutely.
Well, you say that it's statistically unlikely, but we saw Dimas and Lund constantly at the front, you know, through qualifying in the last race. They were at the front through Spain. But you saw from last week that they didn't score major points due to a mistake on track, and both of them dropped quite far down the grid. Anything can happen in sim racing, and especially when it's as tightly packed. And these guys have, I would say, from first looks in the first 2 races, it's very close. And I would personally say, yes, London Dimas is the obvious contenders from the way the pace they have, but I wouldn't rule anyone out just yet.
It's far too early to rule anyone out in any of this, because we've got, say, 11 rounds of the season. We're around 3 now, but like we said, the points gaps are so tight. So the biggest points gap that you see is between P1 and P2. That's 7. But everyone else, it's like 1 point, 3 points, 2 points difference. There's such fine margins between everyone, and looking at how the rounds could play out, it could go all manner of ways. Aleda could have a really difficult race, drop down to P6 and 7. You've got Super Gaming, who could jump up to the top of the field with like a perfect run in Paul Ricard, for instance. To say the options are really endless.
Yeah, and talking of Paul Ricard, we're heading to France, and it's one of those tracks that it's a love-hate relationship, I feel, amongst the community of F1 fans. In real world, it poses a lot more overtaking than normal, but here in sim racing, it's very hit and miss, isn't it?
Produce some great strategic battles and like the meta game, but I think one of the biggest problems people see with the track is that it's its own, as a racetrack facility, it is state of the art, it is brilliant. But with that and things like having 247 layouts, it kind of loses a little bit of personality, that little bit of that star power that is the same thing that makes tracks like Spa, like Monaco, all for their own different reasons. They have their own characteristics. They're so iconic in a way, in a sense that Paul Ricard could never really match. It's very flat circuit, very blue, and very red, as I've seen some of the thumbnails go by. We were short to head into qualifying.
Absolutely, and I guess, yeah, with that idea of, you know, not having a set, unique look does ruin some of the imagery. But at the same time, what they have laid out for the track, by itself, and theoretically speaking, you look at this and go, oh damn, this could be a great race, and it's getting better as it's raining.
Okay, this has suddenly got a lot more interesting. Wet quali, rare appearance here in PSGL.
It's full wet as well. I've just double checked that. Though Nage thinks that Inters could work, assuming he does go out the pits. But interesting. And this does add a little bit, because you have to think about the region as well. So the game runs on a percentage chance that especially if you leave it to default, it's a percentage of chance of it to rain. So for instance, an example of a statistic I do know, there is a 75% chance, or a 71% chance, that you'll get rain in China. And of course, certain tracks have a higher and lower percentage. I think that seems a bit wrong. It seems a little high. Nonetheless, there is chances here and there, and it's all about which track they're on and the weather conditions they are normally.
Yeah, so looking at the internal data, so it's looking at 91% chance for the rain to continue. So 9% that it won't, but a lot of drivers aren't taking that chance. And so you got Alexander Johansson out in full wets, Isban Nagy out on inters, and a few more drivers are starting to come into the fold.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely testing the waters on your first run to see if the inters would work, which is why Nagy's doing it. And if it works, and he does set a very competitive lap time, people will see that on the data at the back as Johansson is off for a spin, and that's on full wets.
I will say, I will be extremely impressed if Isban Nagy manages to wrangle that car at race pace on the inters, because it looks like the rain is coming down so hard right now. So it's a brave choice, and we saw if even Johansson on full wets is losing the rear a bit, what hope does he have on the green walls?
I don't know. You know, I always get surprised about what these drivers do, and an example being, as Nagy definitely not finding the grip, being Harvey Cohen in Monza. I watched that. There's a specific race that he did. He's not in this league, but he is a development driver for McLaren Shadow, and demonstrated that you can do a lot with the tyres you have, and it's all about your setup. And that example being, he did an entire race on one set of tyres. So if the setup is correct, theoretically a green wall could work on this track condition.
Yeah, but you got to have that knowledge going in a way. You have to set up your car basically perfectly for the situation. Like all of the little things, making sure your car's correctly sprung, aerodynamically loaded, things like your dampening as well, so you keep the stability of the car as it sort of bumps and maybe gets a little bit of water in the treads. All these tiny little factors that are simulated that make a big difference.
Absolutely. You have to factor it on. If you don't, mistakes will happen. But we're seeing Nagy, and from the get-go, he's got grip. He's got control of that car. It's not looking too hectic. But the real question is, how quick is it? But he is the first driver to do a lap. And I think the next one behind him is going to be Johansson, who looks to be slightly... The track is saying purple for himself, as I show the wrong driver. But, yeah. I'm intrigued. Very intrigued.
I think Nagy could be treating this almost like a little bit of a litmus test. So if he sees that the inters are the fast tyre, obviously he'll get the fastest lap, he'll keep it. And if he sees that the blue walls are going to be the faster tyre in these types of conditions, he has that knowledge and he has the time to go back in.
Absolutely. It is a game of knowledge. And as he rounds turn 11, which I feel is going to be the hardest, well, technically turn 10, the harder corner to battle with, but turn 11, another awkward corner to run because you can easily get a huge amount of understeer. And it's looking crisp. It really is looking clean for Nagy.
See that? It's a little bit of wobbling, so just keeping it together right now. You can see he's fighting for the grip. Every last ounce of it he's fighting for, but he's managed to keep it together.
What is his time? Is it looking competitive? Crossing the line. It's a bit of a long straight, 1:45.0. Where's Johansson? Because that's going to be a good benchmark. As he is not...
Johansson invalidated.
Ah. So who's next? Got Dimas technically on a lap. He's a little bit far. He's just coming around turn 11. So realistically, being the currently second place could be a good benchmark. And it's 6/10 the difference in time. But Cordell going slower. So it's not convincing yet as Super Gaming does jump ahead. We'll have to wait and see. What does Dimas do? The confident leader, well, I say second place runner in this championship, comes up to the line. And it's second fastest, so Super Gaming finding a quicker time, but Nagy's still fourth.
Yeah, I think Nagy, he went for a bit of a gamble. He can afford to do it early. I think they really were pushing on the upper limit of those inters. So even with staying in now fifth, I think the call would be full wets in this situation. I think they're going to come back out on full wets just because you see everyone like Coquinha Tomas, Adam Lundqvist, Alexander Dimas, and Super Gaming all in the 44.4s and 44.3s, half a second is no joke in these kind of conditions. They're going to make such a difference.
It's going to make a huge amount of difference as Sparky is not feeling comfortable on his wet tyres, going massively wide through turn 10. And it shows how wet this track is, that these drivers, when we saw them last week, how confident they are in the dry. You had that splash of rain and it seems like all that confidence goes.
Yeah, it really is.
Wait, Nagi's just taken fastest lap.
I can't believe it. What? Nagi! Hello?
There's a few more drivers who have switched over to the Inters. I've just pulled up the stats on your screen. Elliot's going for the Inters. You've got Garufu on the Inters, Nowicki on the Inters, and Danny Coe. But that Inter run has just been beaten by a wet tyre run by Sparky.
No way. Yeah, so this seems like more of a leapfrog game than it is a objective tyre run. Say the Inters can't displace half the water that the wets does, but that's almost offset, I think. If I had to make an educated guess, I think it's offset by the amount of extra rubber you have in contact with the track. So maybe if there's not much surface water building up, you might have a case to play for Inters.
I'm not going to lie, that rain's looking lighter already. From visual perspective, I don't think it's raining as hard as we've got... Ooh, that's Oski. Definitely Tokyo drifting round the second to last corner and almost spinning and completely ruining his lap. What's he going to do with that lap time after a little skid and drift? It's only good enough for P11. We jump to Elliot. Where is he in the lap? Elliot is coming into sector 3. Is there someone a bit further ahead? Just trying to find out. No, you've gone into the pits. So yeah, Elliot's our next runner, who again is running the Inters.
Yeah, that gamble. I think it is visually looking lighter. The percentages of rain are going down on the internal data. You're getting a few invalidations here and there, but by and large, I think a lot of drivers are opting to switch to the Inters now to try it out, see how it goes. They saw how Nagi really set the pace. Sparky has immediately jumped up with him. So it's not conclusive which tyre is actually faster.
As I said, visually, that rain is a lot less than when we looked on board at the start of this race. Elliot, is this an opportunity to shine? It's not looking too good because that's about 3 seconds slower. 2.5 to be exact.
Yeah, a little bit rough there for Elliot. Let's say Alessandro Finn is on a lap on the full wets right now. I just want to see, I want to study a little bit how their car controls, because it does look visually lighter, and you see a little bit of understeer happening with the wet tyres. It's not displacing all that much water, so I wonder if it's more a surface water thing that's making everyone spring for the Inters, as now we officially have more Inter runners than wet runners out according to the data on the timing board.
Absolutely, you can see on your screen that I believe this is current tyre? Question mark. As, yeah, Finn, it's not looking all too quick in my opinion. We've been watching the driver go around the circuit, and yeah, I think this is an Inter's situation now. So Nage took that risk early on, put himself in a quite predominant position, but as the qualifying session goes on, it's just going to slowly get drier, drier, and drier.
Saying that, we've got a few drivers coming down the start-finish line. Say 44.1 from Alexandra Finn. This is going to put him second fastest of the wet runners, P5 right now. Waiting for a few more guys to come out. So Mikola Nowicki is going to go on another lap because they did spin out through the second sector. Danny Coe looks like he's coming to the end of a lap now, as well as a few other runners starting.
Yeah, Dimas is going to be the one starting, and you know what? Shall I hand it to you to give me a nice little hot lap of this track?
Alright, so let's hop on board with Dimas and see how we do. So, first things first, it looks like you're going to be quite careful and heading right straight to the outside. It's all about keeping the momentum, especially in conditions like this. The first sector, Paul Ricard, all about keeping your momentum, finding a good flow, finding a good line. You can see hugging the curbs there. Must have the car a little bit more softly sprung to deal with that constant undulation. Hopping a bit over the sausage curb, very tight to the apex there. as we come through. So the wetter tyres very predominantly understeery. But saying that, losing a little bit of the rear is Dimas in that Aston Martin right now. It's a good Sector 1 trap. That is going to be a personal purple, I believe. Hitting it down the start-finish straight. Of course, no, not the start-finish straight, the back straight. But no DRS means we're not going to break that magic 200 miles an hour barrier, but 197 is still going to be good enough for me for the time being. Through the chicane on the back straight before heading out, opening up to the third sector, keeping it nice and tight early on the throttle, but not too early as you unsettle the car a little bit. So 0.798 down, so looking like a good run here for Dimas. He loses a bit of engine braking here. Leo Lund has dropped out of the session in other news. Seems to be a disconnection there. But you have Johansson with a 43.4 on the Inters. Are we going to see Dimas return fire in the Aston Martin? Knock a Haas off the top of the podium. A little bit wide. But you can see even riding the curbs completely. Really just trying to minimize the distance traveled. And as we come through the penultimate and the final corner, got to get a nice big swing tight to the apex. Gun it on the throttle as soon as you can. We're heading down the start-finish straight. It's looking like a very strong lap. What's going to be from Dimas? He's coming down the start-finish straight now. It's going to be a 142!
Ooh, that is strong. And as mentioned, that track is drying up. And look at Danny Coe. 0.001 behind Dimas. And I was about to say, Johansson's done me proud today. But if times are going to slowly come in like this, Johansson needs another lap to keep third place.
Yeah, this is Inters. This is full Inters. Everyone's panicking, running to Inters, getting their laps in now. They know that it's go time.
Yeah, and Nagy is on a lap. He was the first one to say, you know what, this is an Inters run. So a lot more confidence for him, especially being on a tyre that, especially at the get-go, was not looking confident. And a sector of third. 1 1/3 off his lap time.
What's happening to Gustav? 141.6. Yoris is 141.8.
Ooh.
The 141s are coming down. 140s are going to be next. As the track gets even drier, those Inters are really going to come into their own.
They're going to massively come into their own. And we're going to stay with Nage, who's, Tokyo drifting. And he doesn't invalidate, but I think he's backing off this lap. Now, luckily, and this is the advantage of being on these Inters, you can do multiple runs. Fuel your car up for a little bit longer. You can do the multiple runs and see what happens there. How much time did Nage lose on that lap? 140, 141. Still, even with a drift, goes and puts it on pole.
Goes to show, like, the track is evolving. It's getting much grippier all of a sudden. Things are brightening up here. And even with that mistake, that would have been a 140 without that slide there. So 141.633 from Nage is going to put them in a prime position. But they've got to get another lap in right now because Danny Coe's going to 141.3. A few more drivers are going to be coming down now. So I believe that we have one of the Alfa Romeos about to start a lap here. Or is that finish a lap?
That's a finishing. Got super. Not sure. That would be Akos, who is on. I think he's finishing. Crosses the line. Jumps himself up in P8. The other Alfa Romeo, on the other hand, Super Gaming. We saw his name peak to the top of the board. That was looking. This is looking strong from himself. Can he knock off roughly 3 seconds of a lap time and put his Alfa Romeo onto pole? Something we haven't said in F1 history since 1940. Around about that time, where we saw Alfa Romeo on being championship constructors champions, and it's good enough for second place. And I tell you, who needs to put in a good lap is a Leder, who's only just starting his lap with 2 minutes 55 to go.
Well, as closer you can get to that ending line, the better, because right now the track is getting drier and drier with every passing second. So yeah, Gustav Reiderdal leads the qualifying session, 140.953. Super Gaming just sneaks under. It's not going to be enough to get P1, but it is going to be enough to be the second car to break the 140 barrier. You've got a Leder right now looking to see if they can make an improvement as well. You can immediately see the difference in track grip just by how much the car is way more eager to turn in. It's that Alfa Romeo going slow in the middle of the track. Going to stay out of the way. Nice done there. There's a second down on the Delta. So looking at a potential 143, but they need to make up a lot of time. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to jump up the pecking order all that much this lap. It's looking like we might see a 143 or 142 potentially. What's the
Possibly.
prediction?
Ooh, I fear it's going to be... The thing is, the last sector's the most bendiest of them all. And this is realistically where the grip of the tyres is going to shine the most. So, I feel he's going to knock off a lot. I don't think it's going to be top 6 worthy. But maybe somewhere below that. I could be wrong because he's coming to the straight with a lot of time to spare. Comes across the line 140, 141. It is 7th, so I was right in my prediction.
Oh, there you go. Wait, you never even said your prediction out loud.
I said
That
it was
doesn't count.
not going to be top 6, I said.
Nah, come on.
No.
Super Gaming, though, 40.387 is going to be in the fastest of the session so far, but time is running thin. Time is running short. You've got a few drivers who are going to be going in the next few seconds or so. You can see them all congesting around Sector 3.
Yeah, you're going to have to get around that point because you want to optimize the most. I think the person really in a great position is Danny Coe. He needs to pick up a little... no, I think it'd be okay to get across that line at the optimal point. You want to be the last person across the line right now and to maximize the dryness of this track. Because each driver that crosses the line has an opportunity to take pole. As you can see, they're halting. They're creating a train. See if I can grab one of them quickly. No, Dimas is a little far back, so that means it's his teammate. You can see the line that's coming through. And who is last? You know what? I don't think Danny Coe is going to be last. I've got a feeling. Who's that red Ferrari? It's not Finn, but it might be a Leder. If he can cross this line quickly, because he's technically on a lap as well. 7, 6, no, he's not going to get it.
Make it. He's not going to make it. It's just going to be shy. The only car that really sort of made it round, the last car, was that AlphaTauri. But here we go. Leder's going to come across the line. And that is going to be an improvement. But how much of an improvement? 141.0, back up to P7 now. But all eyes are on that sort of Sector 3 train that we spotted earlier. You've got Joris leading, the two McLarens in the middle. So Justin followed by Danny Coe. And then I believe you have Isman Nagy there. Super Gaming is going to come out of the session. But Sparky is going to break the magic barrier. 139.9.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dimas invalidated his lap. So currently second in the championship. Not where he wants to find himself. Johansson not being able to improve and disappoints me once again. By the way, just to let you know, I have a personal thing with him. So I'm allowed to say that. Danny Coe is still looking positive and not positive, looking good on his lap time. Teammate just ahead. Justin just ahead. What, is he looking good for his time? It didn't show for me.
So it looks like Oski's about to finish a lap. What are they going to get? It's going to be a 140.2. That's enough for P2. Mercedes coming across the line. That's Yerofu. What's it going to be? That's going to be immediately leapfrogging 140.08. Few other cars. Mikolas comes P2nd. Cordon, 39.914. Anyone going to dethrone that? Anyone going to challenge it? Joris is going to be 139.3. It's going to be immediate the game of leapfrog. Justin goes P6. Danny Coe's going to cross the line. It's enough for P2, 39.5. And that is qualifying.
Wow. Nage put himself very last minute to second. The man who just went on Inters from the get-go puts it across the line, and there you go. Yorison takes pole, Nage second, Danny Coe finding himself third, Cordor fourth, Sparky fifth, Norwicki sixth, Garufu in 7, Justin in 8, Oski in 9th, Super Gaming 10th, Adam in 11th, Finn in 12th, Akos in 13th, Gustav in 14th, Elliot 15th, Aleda finding himself all the way down in 16th, Tomas in 17th, Dimas in 18th, Johansson still not impressing me with 19th, and Lund had connection problems.
Unfortunate in the case of Lund, as they had. Was certainly primed, I think, to go for a run, but connection not giving him his way. Good day for the AlphaTauris, P2 and P4 in particular. Something to definitely write home about, and the McLarens as well. Both of them being in the top 10, alongside Williams, P1 and P9.
A brilliant day for the, I'd say for Danny Coe, realistically, because he's found himself mid-pack usually, and that's where he sees himself fighting. P3, with potential to fight for the win here. Those odds add up for me, and it's a dry race. That's going to be a bit more interesting.
So it's looking dry, it's looking open. So drivers may have set up for, let's say you can see some of the tyre compounds visually changing. They're setting up for a wet setup for the quali, or were they setting up for a dry for the race? That's where we're really going to see some big change-ups, because drivers who might have done well in quali might not necessarily translate here, depending on their priorities.
Absolutely. And I've just looking in the drivers chat, and Alexander Johansson puts out, would have been in top 5, but he invalidated his lap as we focus towards the race. And what could have been will be something. And who will come out on top is the question that lies ahead. The countdown ends, but are we going to get a race?
I think we're being treated to a little bit more of the pit crew A posing in default position with everyone clipping into each other.
Yeah, I don't think they've updated that, but I'm not gonna lie. It's a very pretty view.
Certainly. I'm not disputing that much, but there we go. Looks like we are ready to go. Oski is jumping out of the session. He's going to have to connect back quickly, but the track is hot. 5 red lights, and we are away, folks. It's time for PSGL PCF4, and it's a good getaway from Joris. It's a great getaway from Danico, immediately putting pressure on Joris there. Has to go quickly to the outside there. It looks like a yellow flag briefly coming out as, say, Oski is still stopped on track, but a big getaway for the top 3. And that is going to be a little bit of fighting down at the back end. Say Sparky, Justin, fighting side by side. Battle for P7 right now. Got to quickly try their best to assert track dominance. Justin's going to have the inside. Is going to give a little bit of space, but not that much. Sparky's going to have to go wide, go over the curbs, but is going to keep that fight going. Down the back straight now, through the second sector. Drag race between the two, and it's going to be Sparky just pipping the wing, and Justin is going to have to tuck back behind, but that fight is not done yet.
No, and it's not even done round the back. Elliot's having to fight his way past Gustav, and Gustav is still fighting hard. They're going through to the next straight, and you're going to see the ERS being deployed, and Gustav right to the inside of the corner into turn 10 has to fend off the line into turn 10, because if you get unlucky, they fly around the outside, and we've still got 2 abreast. That's Alexander Dimas fighting up the position against Leo Lund, his championship contender, and he's got ahead, and Lund finding this ultra wide line, slingshots his way past the Alfa Romeo and puts him in nice contention against the Aston Martin of Dimas. And this is all not even for points, and Lund finds the inside line, still having a go at Dimas. And these two are going to definitely have a championship battle throughout the season.
Yeah, they're definitely looking to get the teeth out, show each other just what they can do. Because remember, these two are contenders, and they know how fierce the competition can be. Whatever tier it is, everyone fights for the best, everyone fights for the win. And with everyone in such close quarters, so for example, Super Gaming, I think, is looked to getting a move on Justin soon. That proximity is diminishing. You look around, and you see some top-class drivers all looking to take home that trophy.
And I'll tell you who wants to take home the trophy. It's Van Nage. He was closing in onto Danny Coe. He lost down off the start, but your biggest gainers is Dimas with 6 and Lund also with 6. But Dimas is now under threat. He was under threat briefly by Elliot, who is now going to be under threat by Lund. They seem like to be working in a pair, the 2 championship protagonists.
I think it's a happy stroke of luck there. So Dimas actually got past Elliot to begin with, and that loss of momentum is what put Elliot out of kilter for Leo Lund to then go and take a slingshot, a bit of a swing. But it's all about these first 3 laps. D is between Cordon and Girofu, about 7 tenths right now. So they're going to be in a DRS train and really sort of fighting to the bitter end.
Yeah, and Lund decided to take a compromising line to see what he can do down the start-finish straight. Not going to work out all too well, and yeah, the DRS train will begin, and nobody's broken a second off anybody, but the question is, who's going to be the first to fall under the cracks of using all their energy so early that they can't keep up with the driver ahead? Is down the inside. There goes Dimas. He's not waiting any longer than he really has to against Gustav. And Gustav, I don't think, was really expecting it as he got pushed massively wide. But a good run through those corners, and he might have an opportunity back into the heavy braking zone of turn 8. Nope, it's going to be Lund who's going to say, you know what, I'm going to have an opportunity and fight at this. But he's going to have to wait a bit patiently because he didn't make the move successfully. And who's that a bit further ahead? That's Super Gaming now looking in the eyes of Justin Alters. And I said to you from the get-go, this could be a track where it becomes very boring and have a DRS train. Or, like we see in the real world, full of overtaking. And we're getting that today.
We're certainly getting that today in spades. I mean, I just want to focus back on Dimas because watch out for a counter-attack by Gustav Ryderdahl. That battery from Dimas is absolutely cooked. He put everything into those early advances, and he's kind of burnt a little bit of his mid-game options purely because he's not going to have the battery, and he's going to be burning it trying to keep in contention. Without that DRS advantage, he's going to be constantly teetering on that 10% value, and Gustav could potentially make a move on him heading down the back straight.
Yeah, I want to draw your attention slightly to the front because Nage again, through that back straight, gets ever so close and the timing board dropping down to 0.1 of a second. And I think he's lining up something here. He's got a good line coming through the exit of turn 6 and through to turn 7. It's just not close enough though. You can see from the timing board, just not there. And as we look elsewhere, guess what? Dimas is past Super Gaming once again, and now he's put a 2-car gap between himself and the Mercedes, but the Alfa Romeo is still wanting to fight, but compromises his race ever so slightly, and Gustav is going to go, you know what, you compromise, I'm coming through. But who else is going to have a look to go at the Alfa Romeo? It's going to be the Mercedes of Leo Lund, and Super Gaming not only lost 1, he lost 3 in 1 lap, and he's got to do everything in his power to get past. But Lund has found an opportunity, a little sniff of action against Gustav, and he's got his way through and found himself right up the rear end of his championship contender. And there's a spin from Gustav to push Super Gaming round, and Gustav, what was looking so good, has now ended with a bit of drama.
Yeah, so Gustav down. I think he just pushing it a little bit too hard though between himself and Super Gaming. They were just fighting for proximity, and when they made contact, it's almost inescapable at that point. He was caught on Super Gaming's car. There's only one real way it could go. And to think, say, Super Gaming as well, P14 now, but was in the power position because everyone around him had completely cooked the battery, bar Elliott. Everyone else was on 10%. So if anyone made an attack on it, we could have immediately got it back within half a lap. And now that's not the case.
Is he playing strategy? That could be what he's doing, because these guys are really down low. You will be seeing a flashing light onto Dimas very, very soon as Johansson finding a very early... These guys like to make an early overtake very quickly, as Johansson finding himself in P12 after a very terrible... well, I would say terrible, not his day of qualifying, but making his way through the field, and this is the Johansson I like to see. The aggressive, constant fighting, and talking of fighting, what's that on the outside is Elliott is trying to defend with all his might as he goes around the outside of turn 10 and will keep the position ahead of Super Gaming, but Super Gaming is going to try an alternative line, slingshot his way through 11, maybe try and find something around the outside into 12, but again, another good line from Elliott, fending off the Alfa Romeo, but I think that Alfa Romeo might try and lunge into turn 15.
Yeah, might see a little bit of a lunge there, but they're on even keel in terms of battery, so it's not much of an advantage to be gained there. I think it's more a case of biding your time, slowly adding that pressure on, going for dummy moves to just coax a movement out of your opponent. And then as we've seen from the sort of twitching around the track of some drivers, especially turn 13, seems to be a bit of a problem child for drivers. As you see there, it's Gustav Ryderdahl, P18, and now with 3 seconds to his name. But yeah, I think it's just coaxing out more pressure until someone makes a mistake.
Nage, is he close enough this time? For the front, for second place this is. He gets good runs through the first sector, and he's looking at extremely aggressive. As I tell you, who is looking aggressive, that's Danny Coe, dummying a move, maybe eyeing up first place early in this race. But he has to wait just a bit longer because he's not close enough. But a good run out of the chicane might mount a move into turn 10. No. Turn 11, a question mark as he closes down even closer. There's a load of moves that can be done here. But, again, biding his time. Doesn't need to do anything reckless just yet. Wait until the pit stop phase.
Yeah, and Danny Coe's in a really difficult position, I gotta say, because he's got flanked on both sides. He wants to go for the move on Joris, but he can't, because Joris kind of has track control, and as soon as he gets that P1, it's immediately going to be stolen back from him because he's not going to have the DRS. Then on the backside, you got Nagy, who is arguably in an even better position in terms of battery, and being backed by his teammate, almost holding the guard in P4. That's called on. So Nagy's in the best position out of anyone there.
He's in a flying position right now, and it almost looks like every time we get to the second chicane, which is turns... I can't get my track map up. Where's it gone? Turns 3 and 4. It almost looks promising, and it looks good, and then he comes out the exit to turn 6 and 7, and it just fades away. He does not have the traction on the exit of those, and it looks all gone. That first point, that first sector is his strongest area, as there goes Danny Coe. He is going to dive one down the inside, and he said, you know what, I'm done waiting. I want the lead of this race. I believe I can pull ahead, and he needs to go and put pedal to the metal if he's going to make this move stick, because Joris is also having a good run and might want to try something into turn 11. Through turn 10 we go. Has he got anything to fight back? No, he has to concede the position.
Yeah, it has nothing to do yet. He's going to have to really bide his time there, as that is Leo Lund off track. Is going to lose a few positions, drop down to P16, runs wide. But yeah, Joris is going to have a difficult act to follow. The pendulum is now set, because these are the times where you're both going to be coordinating attacks on one another and managing, if nothing else, things like DRS and battery. Those are going to be a big decider in all of this.
It's going to be a major decider, as Justin Alders, Justin in P9, he's almost on the fringe. He's on the fringe of being just a little too far away from getting DRS. It's all so close. He closes it down, but I don't think he's going to get... No, he's not going to get DRS on this lap, and now that puts him under threat by second place contender Alexander Dimas. And though down in P10, it still points at the end of the day that's going to help with his championship. But we said at the start of this, realistically, this championship's anybody's.
Yeah, this championship is still anyone's to call at this point. But looking around, it seems that we might start to see two packs forming, because of course with Justin out of the DRS range, now he's properly out of it. So we're going to see two packs, P1 through P8 and then P9 onwards, where the DRS train just becomes all too powerful.
It is a strong effect, and you can see Joris, we just briefly caught that, getting ever so close through turn 11, and we're going to see a lot of overtakes in that area. And I didn't do my usual places to overtake, and while we have the moment, while they're not fully fighting, turn 1 is a great overtaking opportunity, as the guys are about to head into that. If you get a good run through turn 1 and you don't make the overtake successful, there is a possible overtake into turn 3. We've seen a few drivers actually making overtakes into turn 7 after good exits, which are very surprising, meaning that then they have the DRS advantage, assuming they're not in a train. Turn 8, a common place of overtaking, and if you're really ballsy, turn 10. Otherwise, turn 11 is your second to last overtaking opportunity and realistic one. And then a risky lunge into turn 15 can find yourself the last minute dive on the last lap. And I tell you who's definitely going to go for a lunge. It's this man here. Joris, down the inside into turn 8. He reclaims first place for himself.
And say that's where the battery advantage really came into play there. He had all the resources he needed, he had DRS. Didn't even really need to use the battery, so now he's in a really good defending position. But regardless, Danny Coe is still going to keep fighting and is still going to keep pushing. So coming through turn 10 now, heading into turn 11. These top 3 drivers are so close in terms of proximity. We might even see Isman Nagy start to go for a move soon.
I was about to say, Nage's been holding his game. He's not been pressuring all too much, almost letting these two squabble while he's saving up. And is he got more battery than the rest of these two?
Yeah, so he's got 60% right now. Danico is currently on 30 and Joris is on 80. So not enough for P1 to assert a meaningful challenge there, but certainly enough to get into P2 and get right in that firing line for a potential win.
Well, I love to see the front runners battling it out. And then you got Cordor, Nage's teammate. He will want something as who's that? That is going to be Nage going extremely wide. Definite track limits warning, and that's going to invite Cordor into this fight. Teammate action, and there is no teammates. We are fighting for pure individual skill. PSGL does not focus on the teams. We fight for our personal pride. So Cordor will have a strike. He will definitely have a look and an opportunity, but a good exit from Nage, meaning that turn 8 will not be an opportunity for himself.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the grand prospect, and of course, as teammates, you can help each other out, but when push comes to shove, you're drivers, you're individuals, you fight for your pride, you fight for your wins. So if your teammate stands in the way and they're slower, it's no hard feelings, but you're taking it.
I tell you what, even with a mistake, Nage's right up the rear end once again of Danny Coe, and possibly, it almost looks, every time they go through turn 11, it looks like he's about to do something. But again, that professionalism and just being patient is what he needs to do.
Yeah, well, at this point, I think we're reaching what we call the patience stage of the race. Everyone's kind of pushed their limits, they found what they can do, and now they are just biding their time. Because a lot of drivers also got to contend with track limit warnings. So, for example, Super Gaming, 2 warnings. Leo Lund, 2 warnings. Both Aston Martins, I believe, are on 2 warnings as well. And one of the Ferraris also. Unfortunately, we don't have the names for them currently in the internal. But a lot of drivers are starting to contend with those track limits. And you have 2 frames of mind with this. You have the I will be careful, because if I make a mistake, I have 2 chances before I really get penalised for it. Or you have the riskier strategy of, okay, 3 warnings before I get a penalty. That means I have 2 points, if you will, 2 tokens, where I can extend the track slightly, gain a tiny bit of advantage before reining it in a bit. There's the 2 different schools of thinking.
It is very different way of thinking. See what they decide to do, and I tell you once again, Danny Coe definitely shaping up. He's playing that mental game against the Williams driver of Joris, making his presence known as what they say for in nature. Make yourself big to scare off the predators. Well,
Yeah,
he's making Joris look like a prey.
Definitely. Making yourself, it is about, say, making yourself look big, make your presence bigger than it actually is. And we see that all the time in the form of racing through things like dummy moves, getting right close to the bumper before backing off, going side to side before dipping back down. All about making you seem like a larger threat than you might actually be. Getting in the head of your opponent, half the battle.
And I tell you who's going to definitely be a threat is going to be Nagy again. But patience is not on this part of the track, but definitely later on, as coming close to the pit stop phase, which is where I like to see it. That you'll see a lot more overtaking closer to when we're about to pit, and say lap 17 possibly is when we're going to see some pit stops, maybe before lap 15.
I think we're going to see people try and run out the hards as much as possible. So, for instance, you got about 40% wear on the hards right now. We're coming into lap 12. So, looking at the larger scale, we're looking at about lap 17, 18, which I'd say is the optimum point to switch tyres onto something like the mediums.
Interesting. I've got to say, Danny Coe's car is definitely designed for the straights. He closes a lot more than his counterparts of Nagy and Cordor, who don't gain as much. And they have, you know, the same DRS open. I don't know if they're using ERS down the straights necessarily, but it's just looking faster, that McLaren. So, has this car been set up for overtaking, or is he deploying his ERS perfectly to really pose that threat?
Well, both drivers are keeping their ERS roughly balanced, so they're not gaining nor are they losing. Danico does have the advantage of DRS, so he is going to be using a little bit more on the whole to sort of compensate and try and close some gaps. But overall, I would say that Danico's definitely set up a lot more for the straights. Looking at some speed trappings and where I've done a bit of measuring, it's about a 5 miles an hour difference between that Williams and the McLaren behind.
Shall we talk a bit further back about what's happening elsewhere? As our second place in the championship, Alexander Dimas has got a lovely McLaren ahead of him that really has been a pain in the neck for the moment.
Yeah, just waiting, biding time. The thing is, at a certain point, you can't really make any meaningful moves, because if you make a move before the pit window, it's a very good chance to be nullified entirely. So it's sometimes a lot better to assess where you are in terms of pit strategy, assess where your opponents are, and then maybe make a choice to go under or over based on that.
I'll tell you who is going to go for the move. We just saw it in the background. It's going to be Nage trying to go around the outside, and Danico had to get really defensive. So is this the trigger that's going to start the chain reaction of more action? Or are we just getting that dummy move, really pressuring and putting fear amongst the McLaren?
That was burning battery. That was a genuine attempt from Nage there. And he's going to be keeping the pressure on now. He knows that Danico is kind of on the ropes a little bit. They know that they were sandwiched. You saw a little bit of panicking. You saw the micro movements in their steering, trying to look for a place to put their car. So Nage knows that the pressure is on, and Nage knows that if they want to strike, they might have to do it soon or do it through strategy. They're going to have to make a choice, because look at the sky. It's getting a bit overcast.
It is. What's the telemetry saying? Please give me good news. Are we getting rain today?
So it looks like 45% chance within the next 10 minutes. Within the next 15 goes up to 66.
Oh, it's gonna sound good. And I tell you what's sounding good as well. Nage is still applying the pressure onto Danico. And that looks like a good exit. DRS will open up, but is he close enough to make the move down into turn 8? No, but his teammate was looking pretty close. Cordor maybe looking at attack on Nage, saying, you know what, Nage, you've had your opportunity, you've had your chance. This isn't for you. Let me pass, let me fight ahead, but none of them wanting
looking behind, though, Elliott loses control as he just got passed by Aleda, and now he's going to drop way down the order, down to P15. Dimas and Alexander Johansson are also having a little bit of a tussle, it seems. The Aston Martin looking to go narrow to try and put some pressure on. Not quite going to make it work yet, though. They do have battery at their disposal.
Yeah, and this is points for Johansson. He got points, I believe it was last race, as my thing just locked up. But nonetheless, it's an uphill stride for Johansson. Yeah, 3 points from the last race. So that's what, 7th? No, 8th in the last race. Point system's weird. 8th points is 8th was Johansson's last position, and he's going to be happy with another point on the board.
Well, points are points. If you can consistently bring them in, no matter how many, it's still going to tot up and rack
It's
up
rain.
over time.
There's rain. I think I could just see rain. Was it me, or is it the graining of my poor quality computer?
Doesn't look like we're getting rain selling on the cars yet. Johansson's got 3-seconder, though. That's going to be a big damper on their race efforts. But yeah, those percentages are ticking up. So current is 15, 5 minutes 32, 10 minutes 53.
It might be just the quality of my terrible screen, but nonetheless, you can see the attack. There's Cordell. That was possibly a genuine attempt from himself. And again, he can't get past his teammate, who's having a brilliant day of attacking and defending, or whether you call that brilliant or just a lot of work. Nonetheless, the front four keeping us on edge at all times.
Yeah, certainly keeping us on the edge of our seats, that is for sure. Looking at some of the higher speeds, say Cordon actually has the top speed of the track. 342 kilometers an hour is the fastest peak speed of any car on track. Leo London the P2 with 340 and Alessandro Finn with 338 in his Ferrari. So you kind of get a little bit of an idea of setups from that, because compare that to the likes of Super Gaming, who we've seen be a little bit more aggressive in the corners, only a top speed of 332.
Now it's raining. You can see it dripping off the car. The rain is starting to spice things up. And already an interesting qualifying. And now the strategy is coming out. And I tell you what, it's come out at the perfect point, because it is right on the peak of these tyres where they're wearing out. They don't have that much grip. So now it's the question, who's going to jump first onto the inters?
I think they're going to bide a little bit of time, see how long they can hold out on the slicks, because slicks are faster up to a point with inters. So at this stage, it's still worth being on the slicks. Even if you feel the grip start to go, you've got to balance that. Be careful with that as a driver. You've got about a couple of laps before you really have to consider pitting in for a new compound, which actually aligns perfectly with some potential strategies and with the wear of the hards in terms of the pace drop-off.
With the percentage of rain, I don't know if you'd be able to answer this. As actually, I'm going to hold you for 2 seconds, because there goes Cordor down the inside. He's definitely had enough. We said it the entire race. He doesn't want to be behind Nage. He's going to go for it round turn 11, but Nage's got a good run round the outside, holding that position. And the slingshot that he had, Nage, just kept him ahead.
That was a real class move there by Nage. I said Cordon's
He's pitting.
trying to squeeze it. Cordon's pitting. Has decided to jump early, but it's going to get a 5-seconder. That is going to be Alessandro Finn losing it out on track. So we might see the start of something here.
What is he going in for? That's the question. Comes into the box, it's Inters.
Yeah, that's the Inter tyre coming out. That is the judgment call being made, because it's only going to get wetter from here. The percentages only go up. So 10 minutes is up to 65 now. And we are looking at the rain only going to be coming down harder and harder as time goes on. That judgment call from drivers is going to be all important. I'm pretty sure DRS is going to be disabled within the next lap or so. So Danico, if he wants that advantage, if he wants that jump on Joris, who is now equal footing in terms of resources and battery, he wants to run. He needs it now.
Yeah, he's got to make the overtake while he has the opportunity, while the DRS is still available. He's got to make the move, because as soon as it gets disabled, it's then down to your pure driver pace and the ERS that you have available, because if your car's not set up all too well, then you might be struggling. So Danico is going to see what he can do, taking an extremely wide line to then slingshot himself into turn 12, but no lunging moves just yet. So waiting patiently, the latest opportunity he could do before the next lap will be turn 15. But that's depending on if Joris decides to pit, because if he pits, which he will, that's going to change things up, and DRS is now disabled.
You watch to say Danico committed to the full next lap, thinking that Joris would do the same. He almost pulled a bit of a switchback as Joris dipped into the pit. So Aleda's going to get a speeding pit lane penalty. Girofu's going to stay out. And you've got a few other drivers who have yet to go into the pit, but they're going to be joining in as well on the Inter train.
Yeah, we're sticking with Cordor. Has he made a decent decision jumping early? As the first of the drivers, you can just see the edge of Joris coming to the exit of the pit lane, picking up speed. But has it been the right call? Has it been good? No, Cordor will not jump his teammate of Nage, but those tyres are not up to temperature, so there might be an opportunity on the early stages of this lap to quickly hop a position. But car number 69 of Cordor will not make that early move just yet.
I wouldn't bank on the tyre temperature argument, because remember, wet and Inter tyres, they're designed to be softer where they have less contact patch. It takes less time for them to heat up, and it takes less track surface and carcass and temperatures overall to be effective. So you can see here, Nage is holding the gap right now between himself and Cordon. Joris is going to be about 1.5 seconds ahead, and it looks like, by all accounts, that those Inters are already up to temp.
Now, Danico has to pit. And I don't know what his in-lap has been like, because the rain is slowly getting harder and harder, and the track gets slippier and slippier. As finally, he does pit. But has he cost himself a position, well, or gained a position, because technically he was behind Joris, but has he cost himself a potential to be ahead as the rain is getting even harder. You look at it now, really pouring down as we stay with Joris, as we see he comes round the final corner. And the McLaren's trundling along the pit lane, but I don't think that's going to work out all too well. But how many positions has Danny Coe lost? He's come to the exit of the pits. There goes our race leader. There goes the of Nage. So critically, he's lost a position rather than gaining.
Yeah, that overcut, and it all came down to that commitment to the next lap where everyone else went in. Almost got baited out by Joris there, just subtly. You saw them going a bit narrow, and then they decided, actually, no, I'm not going to commit. I'm heading into the pits. Danny Coe was out of luck because by that point, he was past the dotted line, and meaning it would mean a penalty if he were to cross it to try and panic jump into the pits.
It would have been a penalty, and I think it's 5 seconds they add on according to PSGL rules, but it would be definitely something that would go straight to the steward inquiries, and these guys are ruthless in the inquiry section, though last week we didn't have anything, which was surprising.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a different attitude depending on the track. You have some tracks where drivers are ruthless because they know that there's a lot to be gained, but if more tighter, accident-prone tracks, sometimes they're easy to wave it off. It's almost a it is what it is attitude.
Nage, 3 seconds.
Oh, that's going to be a brutal kick because Cordon also had his penalty. Tamas had a penalty as well now, but they actually came out previously on the mediums. That's why they're so far behind. They came out on the mediums, so maybe a pit strategy error there.
It might be an error, but where is our current championship leader? So Leda is not in the points, so now he puts himself vulnerable to losing his championship position, as I'm just going to pause for a moment as Danny Coe, question mark. We know he's got straight line speed. It's not quick enough though. Then you got Dimas currently down in 14th. Again, not giving himself any points. Lund is in 13th and no points. And then Elliott in 15th. And that's your top 4. Super Gaming, top 5 in 12th. And then it's Danny Coe, who is currently in 6th. He's going to 100% take the lead of this championship.
Yeah, wow. If Danny Coe can make this, even in just a podium position, he could very much take the championship. And say, looking at it now, he's going to be putting everything into a move attempt on Nagy. He's going to be poking his nose down the inside. He's just about going to be making a little bit of contact with the side pod there as they both fight for space. That straight line speed, it helps him down here, but it might come back to bite him in the corners. Nagy's got about 15% in the tank, so they have enough to defend from one move potentially, if that. Danny Coe is going to try and keep it on the rear. Might be looking to take a little bit of a different line. Goes a bit deep into turn 11. Tries to get the swing back. Not going to be happening just yet. There's a little bit of wiggle coming out of turn 11 heading into turn 12.
Danny Coe wants all that he can. I don't know if he knows that there is potential here to take the championship in round 3. If he's listening to us now, he will definitely know and he will apply more pressure. But when you're in that position of this unknown and you don't know the severity, is that better for the driver, or would you rather know that you need this overtake to have a better chance?
It really depends on your mindset, because if you prefer to have no distractions, you're the type to just want to focus on the race in the now and whatever happens, happens. Adding more onto that is just pressure you don't need and ultimately more mistakes. But you have the other kind of drivers who thrive on that kind of pressure, who want to know what's on the line as a means to push them forward. So it's very dependent on your mindset.
Well, I've always called Danny Coe a mid-tier, mid-runner in these leagues. I think today we can definitely say that's not the case. He's been fighting hungry, and he's hungry for it once again. He's looking for another turn 8 opportunity. He went once, made contact. It's not going to be the case into turn 8. But how much are you going to risk to make a turn 10 overtake in the wet? Now that's something that's going to be extremely risky. Not one that he's going to take, but turn 11 is more promising and a lot more safer. But again, just a little too far back to really mount that move. And if anyone does go for turn 10 overtakes, you know what? That's the overtake of the day for me.
You look at some of these moves, and it's almost like an elaborate dance between the two drivers. Everyone's making moves in order to coax their opponent into a reaction, which then counter-prompts another reaction, and you quickly get these chains of events. So like right now, Danico taking alternate lines to look for ways to get around Nagi, as well as staying out of the dirty air, out of the toe a little bit, gets back in the toe for the start-finish straight, and both of them cooking a little bit of battery, knowing the other is there, knowing the other is a threat to their current position and where they want to be. And, say a little bit of the pressure they're coming out, as there's a little bit of a rearward kick from that McLaren, but he's holding it together quite strong.
I'll tell you what's happening as well. As much as these two are dancing amongst each other, Joris is, well, he's chilling right now. No penalty on him. He knows that he's safe right now with a 3-second time penalty from Nage. So he's not too worried. At the moment, I think the pressure's definitely been removed off him. And he can just start to focus on his driving and just nailing every corner, nailing the braking point in these ever so growing wet conditions.
Yeah, it really is in a position of dominance right now, because Nage and Danico are fighting tooth and nail. They're very much preoccupied with each other. All Joris has to do is keep it clean and bring it home. You see it here, he's taking a little bit more careful approach with the lines, using a bit of engine braking rather than just traditional brakes, because a good amount of engine braking is sometimes a more stable option in some cases, but it just needs to keep it clean, keep his head down. It's not that long left.
Absolutely, and in the mid-pack as well, I just want to draw our attention to the mid-pack, where the hectic chaos is, as we've got from Adam in P7 all the way down to P14. The drivers are running within the second mark. What would be a DRS train minus the DRS is looking very predominant, as a few drivers are going to get close to each other. That'll be Lund and Super Gaming eyeing up one another, and I think Lund, who definitely is not, this is not his day. This is not even Dimas's day, who's behind him. He's gonna be pissed right now. I can imagine him being pissed. Is up ahead. That's gonna be Johansson fighting with, it'll be Gurufu. And that's going to allow an opportunity for the Ferrari to come down to the inside. Going to look 3 abreast into the chicane. And Aleda gaining 3 positions off the get-go. And here comes the chaos, ladies and gents, as they are all wanting to pounce on what is remaining. Johansson is going to have to fend off Super Gaming, the guy who he was not expecting to come up to him. And it's going to be round into turn 7. Side by side, and it's going to be who's got the latest brakes into turn 8. As ahead, Aleda's trying to fend off the Mercedes, but the Mercedes will have the upper hand into the corner of turn 8. But side by side they go, and there's Dimas trying to put his nose into Johansson, and Johansson, who was sitting comfortably in P9, has now dropped far back. But the Ferrari is still wanting to attack through turn 10. Has to be patient. A move into turn 11 is definitely where he wants to go, but nothing here, as he has to wait even more to try and find anything, and there's a possible opportunity to turn 12 if he lunges, but not here. He will lunge, sorry. He's going to go for it, apply the pressure onto the Mercedes driver, and run it through 13, round to the inside of 14, and it's going to be an overtake opportunity into the last corner of 15 that will seal the deal, if he can get that car right. But it's going to be the switch back onto the start-finish straight, as it's going to be a turn 1 overtake. He's going to get the slipstream from the Mercedes driver. Looks to the inside line, which is going to be more predominant. Switches it back to the outside, looking for a switchback into turn 2. As he pushes it all the way, he's going to look for the next opportunity into turn 3. As further back, Dimas is also having to fend off trying to attack Johansson. Through to the inside, goes a bit deep, and Johansson's going to say thank you very much. But through goes Lund, as Lund will try and look for what he can, as he's trying to not collide into Johansson. And Johansson's being bumper carted around between the two championship antagonists. And Johansson is going to say, you know what, if you're going to bump me around, I'm going to do what I can to fight back. And he's in a sandwich between the two very aggressive drivers, as a defensive move from Dimas is going to allow the opportunity around the outside for Johansson. And this battle still does not end, because you know Lund's going to go for something. He's going to try something back into turn 10, but I think, realistically speaking, there is no more ERS for that driver.
There's no more ERS for everyone. They burnt absolutely everything in this core battle between themselves. And keep an eye on Lund for the moment, because he still is going to be looking for some lunges. You watch that concertina effect. You see, as soon as Johansson gets backed up, Lund is right there. Lund's going for a massive lunge on that Haas there. Throws it on the inside, puts that pressure on immediately. They bump tires, they make contact. And Lund is going to have to back off. Both of them seeming a little bit shaky, feeling that pressure, feeling that time constraint, because they don't have long left. They've got about 2 laps to make something count before this race is over.
Yeah, and they're applying the pressure like no other. Up ahead, just briefly mentioning, all is chill, all is calm. You know, no one's really attacking up front. So we're going to look at the final points, which is really what this is all about. How much are you willing to risk for the final points? And especially if your name is Super Gaming, he's doing everything he can. He's on the fringe and he has an opportunity as more penalties are showing up. You can see on the side, 3 seconds for the person in 9th who is at the front of this train. You've got a leader with 8 seconds worth of penalties, which is massive. That's 5-second time penalty, I think, for speeding, and another 3 seconds for track limits. And then you've got Super Gaming himself, he's got 3 seconds. So he wants to try and get past the Mercedes up ahead, and then that will be for position. The person in the prime position, realistically, is Dimas, with 0 penalties right now.
Yeah, he's going to get a lot of promotion from that, so he's definitely in prime spot to take it. Aleda's going to go down to P14. Ryderdal's going to stay where they are in P15, I think. And, of course, you have everyone shuffling around in the middle. Looking at the top sharp of the things, you have Nage, who, of course, did really well to fight and has made up considerable time to Joris, but it's all going to be for naught, potentially, as they might be looking at just getting demoted behind Danico there. The key thing for them, though, is, I think, not so much Danico, but keeping the dominance over their teammate, getting 3 seconds between themselves and Cordon so that they drop 1 position, but not enough to get the team swap.
Aleda looked for a move into turn 13, but just couldn't find anything. And I think this is coming into panic stage for these drivers. 2 laps remaining, and they're throwing out moves that really shouldn't happen, that shouldn't be realistic. It's a panic for as much points, especially for the likes of Johansson, Dimas, and Aleda, who are the top 3 in this championship. They're going to do everything they can because they know they're going to lose this championship, as there is Dimas, who's going to the inside of Super Gaming to really try and scrounge the last point off Aleda. So he needs to get past with confidence, but at the moment, none of these drivers have any form of confidence, as Super Gaming has got the straight line speed to really go back at Dimas, as Dimas tries to cover the inside line, saying, nope, you're not allowed your way through, but look at the wide line that Alfa Romeo has. He's going to be able to swing his way back through, come up into turn 10, and be ultra close for turn 11 as he looks to the outside of turn 10. This is brave, this is bold, this is unrealistic and unworthy. But he's not going to go for it just yet. He has to be realistic in what he's doing. 11 is realistic. 10 isn't. 10 is definitely going to cause a crash.
Yeah, well, Dimas, look at the grander scope of things. Look at the penalties especially. Dimas isn't pushing for P10. He's pushing for 11, I think. Because Aleda is going to be dropped with those 8 seconds. Super Gaming's out of his hair. Johansson's out of his hair. Only real threat is Leo Lund, but even then in P14, he's safe in the running.
Massively safe. A good buffer amongst the group. Who's going to strike next? Who's going to be the one to really put the pedal to the metal? Not into this first sector as it looks. Going to have to wait patiently. Up ahead, Nage's closed the gap a little bit, but he's too far back realistically to do any form of damage to cross the line. First, as down goes Dimas. This is risky. Into the first sector. And rounding turn 6 and through turn 7, Dimas will hold the position. So he's currently in P10 officially. And now he's got to defend. I think this was the wrong move realistically. He doesn't want to fight here. He's in a safe position with no penalties. Why take the risk? But he's going to anyway. Aleda trying to go around the outside, but it's nothing there. A good holding, a good stance by Dimas. And Dimas is once again going to have to position his car very well. He's taking the middle road and forcing a lead around the outside. That means it's going to be brave and bold through turn 10. I said someone's going to try. They're going to try for it. And Aleda is going to make the move. But he does go off the track. So will that be questioned? 100% it will. Dimas looking back to the inside. And is going to try and find what he can. And that's Johansson getting a bit wavy and risky.
Look at the front.
Dimas is going to go ahead, and across the line, we will bring light to it. Joris will win the French Grand Prix. Nage will not take second as Danico will jump the position. We head back to the battle. Who's going to be taking the next positions? As the Mercedes driver will lose the position, but it's going to be all to the line. Who's going to cross it first? It doesn't matter. It'll still be Dimas's, but a battle to the end as, oh, that was a bit aggressive from Aleda.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. Just before the line, they got squeezed, it seems. They crushed that gap. And, yeah, that is Dimas. He's still going to inherit P9. Aleda's still going to go down to P14 as predicted. But that got real heated way too quick.
It almost felt like that was extremely personal between the drivers at the end. Like, it was almost like it was the big FU situation.
Yeah, so just a little bit of a nod there. I don't know. You can never really say with these drivers to say there's always rivalries brewing, friendly, unfriendly, so be it. Dimas is going to get driver of the day, but of course in the chat, let us know who yours is. And looking at the standings as we come through, I mean, the focus really, I'll be honest to say, it's not so much the top end. The mid-pack was where the action was at today.
Oh, it was. Like, it flitted from the very start. It was the mid-pack putting some action. Then through the middle section of the race, we then saw the front runners getting a bit heated, a bit kind of aggy with each other, going back and forth, trading their big stances. Then it ended up back to the mid-pack once again. So a day, I would say, of very, very good racing.
Yeah, it was a really good racing on the whole. I mean, everyone put in their 110%. I think that's sort of unquestionable there. Everyone was going for sometimes a little bit overextending as far as moves go, but they still were willing to commit, willing to put it in and get it done. Alexander Johansson is going to still have the fastest lap over all of that, so 1:33.928, good going there, but it is going to be Joris in a very, very quiet race overall for them. Very quiet, very up the top. Had a little bit of potential drama going on briefly, but quickly reasserted their dominance. First on the grid, and then carried it home to a win in the French Grand Prix.
Well, it was a very, very dramatic win nonetheless, but this is the type of racing I love to see. I love to see the drivers pushing each other, making each other, forcing people into mistakes, things like that. I love to see that. That's the type of racing we should be seeing naturally, but there is, of course, that element of strategy. We're fully aware that naturally drivers are going to not take the risks all the time. They're going to play safe and be cautious in everything they do, but today was all out brutal. It was a day of attack.
Yeah, well, you look at the changing conditions of the track. It went from dry to wet to very wet nearing the end. So everyone was kind of panicking. Everyone was in that flustered state because as a driver, you love predictable. You live for predictable. As a team, as a driver, as a competitor, you want things to be what you know and you want things to go your way. You throw a spanner into the works like a wet race where you've got a dry setup. Completely changed. Your plan's out the window. That's when you start to really bring the fight out, where you maybe had a predetermined strategy before, but now you're having to quickly change plans. We've got to do something different.
It just reminds me, it's a little silly one, from the show Flash. Leonard Snart's make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rail, throw away the plan.
Throw away the plan. Actually rewatching that show right now. Brilliant stuff.
That is literally how I feel about what happened today. But talking of action, we're going to be heading to Austria, the home of the Red Bull Ring at Spielberg, and that always causes a little bit of drama in Austria, doesn't it?
Yeah, so Austria, it's a tough one because at the same time as being a very simple track, It's little things like the undulation, like how the track curves and cambers. It's things like you've got some sections of the track which are, I mean, I'll be honest, it's infamous by this point. I'm looking at you, Alex Albon. You have so many points where things can be seemingly stable, and then all of a sudden the entire dynamic of the race can change within a couple of minutes. So it's a wild card of a track.
Well, it's a track that we're going to be heading to next, and if you enjoyed the action, then of course stay tuned next week, as there will be more drama, more action, and definitely some more rivalry as this championship is brewing up. But if you're looking for the professionals, that will be yesterday or next week on Wednesday as we get the Tier 1. They'll be running at, because they just did France, they'll be in Portimao for round 9 with the top contenders, with the big names out there like Ronha and it's gone out of my head, Otmir racing on the day. I was hoping so. But as I said, if it's us you want, stay tuned for next week as we be heading to Austria. Anything from you, Ben?
I'd say I'm looking forward to Austria. It's a real wild card of a track. Brilliant job out there for some of the drivers today. We're going to see some big upsets in the championships. Of course, say Joris, well done on the provisional win. I'm pretty sure it's going to stand. They had such a quiet race. But we'll, of course, see some big shake-ups in the championship post-penalties. And I'm looking forward to round 4.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more drama.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.